Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody to our community of a whole. Roll call please.
Commissioner Dixon?
Here.
Commissioner Weeding?
Here.
Commissioner Walsh?
Here.
Commissioner Michael?
Here.
Mayor Lyons?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, first up on the agenda, we have to approve the minutes, so I need a motion to approve minutes of the Tuesday, January 13th committee of the whole meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Weeding?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh?
Abstain?
Commissioner Michael?
Yes.
Mayor Lyons?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, for committee of the whole, our first discussion item is going to be the RRA and ERP. Sean, you're up first.
Yes. These are just, this is a proposal that was put forth to the council for consideration. Back in 2018, the US EPA, they passed the American Infrastructure Act. At that time, there was a requirement for all community water systems to basically do a risk assessment of their facilities, also looking at cyber risks as well. And essentially what they do is you develop a risk resiliency and risk assessment tool, basically. You go through and identify it, and then it's submitted off to IEPA because they're the local agency, and self-reporting. And once that's done, there's also another part of that. It's called the emergency response plan, and that basically dives into the items that were identified in that risk and resiliency assessment. You know, what things you're going to fix, what things you're going to address. The law stated that initial plan has to be put together, and every 5 years after that, you have to update that plan in the ERP to basically go back and look at what changes have occurred to the water system and kind of update it. So this is just something that's coming up. The date is, I think it is June 1st is when it's supposed to be done. June 20th, and then
Yeah.
December 31st, I guess it was. So it's just something we need to do here probably in the next couple of months, next month probably, so we can get it in and get it taken care of by the end of June. The emergency response plan would be done kind of almost simultaneously with it. It would follow right behind it. It would be done probably in July.
It makes sense doing these back to
Yeah.
back, piggybacking each other.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussions on that particular item, anybody? Okay, the next one is, our discussion is gonna be our CIP plan. Sean, you're up on that?
And again, this is more of a, I'm gonna just give more of a high-level overview. This document is something that was put together by staff with Public Works. You know, Rob and George and Scott were great in helping put all this stuff together and compiling plans. We've met 3 times over the past, probably since October, trying to fine-tune this, and then correspondence back and forth via emails. The first step was really to identify projects. What are the needs that we see coming up, so we can kind of start planning them, get a list of all the projects, put them down on paper, start looking at what the actual estimated construction cost would be, looking at design cost and then construction engineering costs. And so we can kind of start to look at what we really have coming forward. And then from that point, Public Works staff helped prioritize what needed to be done when. We looked at what projects really have to be done sooner rather than later. And after that, you know, we worked with administration, trying to figure out what are we looking from a budget standpoint and what are we looking from a timeline standpoint. Capital improvements plans can be 3 years long, maybe 5 years long, maybe 10, maybe 20 years. It's a living document. What you're really trying to do is you're trying to lay out all the projects you foresee on the horizon that need to be done and start to develop how you will fund these and what needs to be slotted where. So what we did is we first looked at all the projects, put all the projects together, developed costs for those, worked with staff then to prioritize to see what needed to be done first, you know, what we're thinking needs to be done. And then we've worked with administration to come up with an idea of what kind of funding are we targeting and what kind of timeline. We settled on a 5-year plan with the idea of being, let's look at $6 million over that 5 years as true capital infrastructure, using that to pay into some of these things. There's other funds that could be used, you know, to supplement that, but let's see how we can stretch that out, what projects we get done. So what we looked at is we looked at street projects, really 4 different categories. We looked at street projects, we looked at water infrastructure, water projects, sanitary projects, and then some storm projects. And then later on, we received the Ozite grant, so we added the Ozite in there as well, because you remember that's a matching grant. So to maximize that grant, we basically have to match the dollars we're gonna receive for that, which was $600,000. So we put all those items together, and we started looking at what projects can we fund. Streets are challenging because some of the streets that we need to resurface, we looked at the plan from, 2024 for that. We did a pavement analysis, kind of looking at worst streets. And we started kind of ranking those. We overlaid the map that showed those streets with some of the water main maps, so the deficient water mains. We've got some small water mains we need to replace. We've got some hydrant issues, safety issues. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to pick projects that don't overlap with, water projects we're gonna then have to tear up the street. So what we did is we looked at, water projects and the street projects, and we tried to, if we could overlap them, we did. In this case, I think there may be one project that we're gonna try to do at the very end. After we do the water improvements, we'll try to patch it, resurface it later at the very end of the program. But for the most part, they kind of wound up going in tandem, simply because we don't want to be doing things on top of each other. From a capital standpoint, we really have two major projects really going on. We've got the construction work that's planned for 113 Division Street and Easy Street. The council looked at doing that, something that we're gonna do with Rebuild Illinois bond funds that the city had received several years back. We've allocated money for that. The costs of that project are higher than we currently have available in those funds. So there's gonna be some discussions going back to the developer to say, hey, how can you help us fund some of this shortfall?
And that's what I think I was bringing up to everybody this last week. So the agreement calls for the city to work on Easy Street, right, with the no left-hand pork chop right there. So the plan was, when the agreement was initiated, was to have the city use this Build Illinois funds to offset the cost. So we received roughly about $400,000. I'm not gonna give you exact sums, I have here, but roughly $400,000 to do that. The cost, as per the latest round with IDOT, is almost $1 million to do that. They want road widening, they want a full intersection or improvement, decel, they want everything, right? So we asked for IDOT to help pay for it. They told us no. So right now, we have that $600,000 funding gap for the Easy Street improvements based on what IDOT is requiring. We're gonna go back to the two developers, and we're gonna try to negotiate something different. Several things are the reason why this cost went up. A couple reasons why the project is 3 years behind schedule, right? 2 or 3 years behind schedule, based on what the agreement contemplated. 10-15% cost and inflation on construction material. And then IDOT wants you to build, the Taj Mahal versus just an easy left in and full access. So you take those two together, we get the $900,000 to $1 million project cost. So we are working on that right now to figure that out.
So that's one of the projects we've got sitting in there. We recognize it. The project's listed here. We've allocated $1 Rebuild Illinois funds for that, and the rest of it, we say it's kind of currently listed. It's an unfunded shortfall. We're gonna revisit that one and see if we can get some additional funding. We may reach out to IDOT again and try to explain yet again our plight, but I'm not thinking there's gonna be a lot of movement with that. So we're trying to basically chase down other funding avenues for that. The other thing is really, from a capital standpoint, is really primarily just catching up with some of the resurfacing work that needs to be done. There's ways, typically what we've done is you can use MFT funds for resurfacing work, but the city only gets about $290,000 a year for resurfacing. So if we're trying to catch up on streets, we're probably gonna have to use some capital infusion into that. We can tap into some of that because we have a fund balance and pay some of that down now that we kind of have a handle on the funds. But again, we want to be cautious on that and not spend it all. We want to keep a buffer in case something comes up somewhere down the line. So really what we try to do is we try to identify projects that make sense that for the year, like what projects could possibly be done. We identified those costs and then we slotted them in where they seem to make sense for the overall aggregate. We did the same thing for water. From a water standpoint, really we've got some work that we need to do with the wastewater treatment department, the water treatment plant. We've got some piping repairs. We've got a ion exchange filter that it's not operating quite the way it should be, so we need to redo that. We've got some hydrant replacements to be done, and we have water meter replacements, and we've also got the, a mixer for Tower 3, and probably the bigger one for that one is gonna be the small diameter water main replacements. And those costs are just simply things we haven't been able to get to for the year, over the years, so we're just really trying to figure out how do we start to chase some of these things down.
And that small diameter water replacement solves the hydrant issue, correct?
Yes, one of the
Yeah.
first projects we're gonna looking at doing is chasing down, some of that 4-inch water main over there on Eureka Street between Maple out to Walnut. That will-
Some are even smaller.
Correct, yeah, we're gonna try to get those taken care of because that allows us to bring pressure out there, plus changing out some hydrants, we can improve a lot of the really bad hydrants right off the bat. That was one of the things we talked about. And then subsequent years, we're chasing down other small diameter water mains. We've got some small water main on South Walker and a few other locations. We're just trying to chase all these things down. We've also got some transite water main that we need to address. Transite is asbestos cement. It was something we used a long time ago, but because it's asbestos cement, there's additional sampling protocols that have to be done by public works staff. So they want to kind of get some of that stuff taken care of. So we've tried to identify these different projects, and again, figure out what the costs are for the different projects segment by segment, and how we could slot them year by year. The next thing we looked at is we looked at sanitary projects. Sanitary projects, we have a couple of specific needs right now. We have some undersized piping where some of the sanitary comes together right at the wastewater treatment plant. We've got a bottleneck. We've got a couple of larger diameter sewers that go into a 15-inch sewer that goes into the plant. That needs to be replaced, and needs to be upsized. And then we've got some additional areas we could fix later on. We have another location where we have SSOs where periodically in high rains, we have sanitary waste that will come out of the structure itself. We have to report that, so we want to address that. We think that's primarily more of a, the way the flow comes in, so it would be a modification of the structure. But we tried to identify all of these specific projects to kind of put them on a list. And then we also looked at really the other big issue that we're having with the plant is we have a lot of I&I issues. So we're looking at trying to do a flow monitoring study to figure out the base, see where we're getting the most water. Something the city had looked at a plan back in 2009-ish. They evaluated a lot of this, did some televising. They fixed a lot of the manholes, but there's still there's some other ones that were not addressed. They fixed a portion of them, but then it kind of fell off the radar. So there are sewers that still need to be lined, there are things that need to be addressed, some spot repairs that need to be taken care of. So we're gonna be looking at working with, there's a dollar associated with the line items, and there's specific tasks that typically are done. Typically you do a flow monitoring study, then you would do some repairs, spot repairs for manhole lining, and then you'd also take care of some smoke testing and things to find out where you're getting some of the inflow. So we're trying to basically do some of the studies, but at the same time, rubber meets the road, let's fix some of these known repairs that we identified back in 2009 that haven't been addressed. They didn't get better, so we'll go and target getting some of those things taken care of, and then build off of that with some of the new information we're going, as we develop this, try to identify more and more of those areas so we can start pulling some of that excess water out. Again, the idea is you're pulling the excess water out of the wastewater system, collection system, because again, there's two things. One is taking up your capacity for your residents, so you're starting to have problems with, backups, sanitary sewer overflows, and you're also paying money to treat it. Why are you treating rainwater? Doesn't make sense. So we're trying to look at different things that we can address with that. The other project that we also had been identified was, we've got some UV bulb replacements we have to get taken care of. We're in year 12, they only last 10 years, so we're providing time, so we know that we've got to get some of these things taken care of this year. And then there's a sanitary, probably a septic system, basically, where the city gets septic waste that they get from septic haulers and things like that gets deposited. The problem is we don't really, the city public works staff has identified that we get all sorts of deposits, so to speak, that we pick up and treat. We don't have a really good solid handle on what that volume is. So really what we're trying to do is get a system that they key card in, we can track exactly what waste is coming in. We can start to see if we're having problems with the plant that's causing spikes because the waste characterization is different, and we can start getting a better handle on that if we need to adjust rates, if we need to go back and put a storage tank that we can then slowly trickle it back into the plant that we're not causing upsets at the plant. We're just trying to get a better handle on it because right now over the years, we really haven't had a good handle on it. And then from a stormwater project standpoint, really we looked at a couple of, in the last year or so, we've had a few residents have come by and brought up some issues that have been recurring over time. A lot of these relate to, we have an open drain system. Like most of Illinois, we're flat, we have a couple of draws that pick up water and convey it to a little ditch, and then it goes out. In some of these areas, we don't really have a good handle on the maintenance of this, simply because Public Works staff doesn't have the time, nor do they have the dollars to do it. So we're trying to look at how do we start addressing some of these maintenance issues, and then address some of these specific targeted flooding issues we've heard from some residents. We have a resident over on Kern Street, over on Mitchell. There's a large drainage ditch that runs, I guess southwest to northeast or vice versa. And we have a couple of smaller diameter pipes in there. And unfortunately, the resident probably doesn't maintain it as well. Just over time, it silts in, it grasses in, and some of these pipes have gotten damaged. So we're looking at possibly replacing, a section of pipe underneath the driveway. And then we've got some additional areas that we may replace somewhere in the future, but we're trying to do this more of a phased approach. We'll address the first problem that may solve it. If it doesn't, we'll address the next problem. We're gonna kind of chip away at this. The ditch that the gentleman gets the water from, unfortunately, it takes a significant area south of town. It's got a 3x5 box that goes underneath Washington Street, and it drains north and it goes into two 24-inch plastic pipes. So it's really not sized for it, but at the same time, we have limitations downstream because we have a large elliptical pipe that it's been draining and functioning very well for a long period of time. So we can't totally upsize the driveway culverts, some of these smaller culverts, because we're gonna have a restriction downstream. We're trying to find something that works so we can actually upsize it, convey as much water to kind of match what we have downstream, and call it a day. So these are the projects that we kind of identified. We looked at some of these projects. After we put them together, or started putting them in different slots in different years to try to kind of match the funds as much as we can. When it's all said and done, you'll see in front of you is kind of a list in the memo. It's a lot of spreadsheets, so it's actually cells going to here and there and information pulled out. I've spelled out the specific projects that we're looking to do for water main and the water main replacement and the street resurfacing in each one of those years. And those are the projects that we figured that made the most sense to fit within the dollars we had. It's important to note, though, that we are over what we originally had planned to try to spend for the CIP, because we also have the water main replacement, or addition to the water main replacement, we have the meters that we need to replace. Unfortunately, the city's been trying to catch up on this and been doing this for years, and Georgia's done a great job, but unfortunately doesn't have enough bodies. So over time, it's, some of these meters, it's taking a long time to get around to it. And by the time, if we continue on this current pace, by the time we get to the end of it, a bunch of the meters we put in are technically past their life expectancy. So we're trying to speed up that process to get those taken care of. And one of the things also is this will provide an actual centralized meter reading station. So we don't have to drive around and chase these down, drive through town. We can actually automatically read it and actually have that data. It's a fallback that they can later on if they need to, but we looked at trying to slot that in too. So we tried to spread that over 3 years, and even in year 4, we put the receiving station for the antenna. Tried to stretch that out as much as possible to try to keep some of those cost impacts down. But again, we're more than we originally had planned at this point in time. At this point, really what I was trying to do is I just wanted to give you an overview, provide it for you to kind of have a chance to digest. I'd be happy to talk with anybody and walk through how it was developed, why we chose what we chose. This is more informational at this point. There's a lot to digest here. Not expecting any action on this. I know this is something that needs to be kind of vetted, but we also wanted to get it in your hands so you can use it for budget and planning and things along those lines. Because unfortunately, it's hard to budget and plan if you don't have a sense of the projects. So if there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I was glad that the staff was involved and they got the boots on the ground. They're there. So I was very happy to hear that you got this.
Yeah, they were great. They drove it really.
Yeah, the couple guys I talked to enjoyed being participants as well.
And as Sean said, this is a guide, right? So if there's an emergency situation where we have to do something, these numbers and these projects can be interchangeable depending on what happens over the course of the year. So we have a budget meeting tomorrow with Public Works, and we're looking to do a project fund create this project fund, and now we will take this and we will add this into the budget and see where it falls. And if we have to cut back some of the projects because of revenue or whatever, then we will, and just put it over to year 2 then. So we have a priority, it's a guide, and then what we can't get done this year, we put into year 2, then year 2 goes to year 3, and so it's a moving, living document.
And another thing to point out also, these are budgetary numbers. You know, we used past experience we've had for the resurfacing the last couple of years. We've done a lot of projects with water main replacements. We have a pretty good sense of some of those numbers. All of these projects are just really from a budgeting standpoint. When you get into an actual specific project, we would provide a proposal for the specific, we dig into it a little bit more, detail the scope and narrow it down and bring it tighter. Again, we're just trying to kind of plan for, you know, looking at, you know, construction costs, and then we throw a percentage for design, percentage for construction engineering on that. So those numbers will probably adjust down realistic by the time we get the scope together for some of these. Some might go up, but in theory, we've been trying to be broad brush to begin with.
So they go down.
No, I think it's a great idea to have again, for those that are home, you know, a capital improvement plan, that we have something in place, because we change faces here, there's new council members, there's new administration, but we have a plan in place. And again, I've said before, when I was on the Board of Education, we had a 20-year plan. Hey, this air conditioning unit needs replaced, this needs painted, the field house needs this, we have to redo the field. So we had a 20-year plan in place. This is nice to have this in the future. You know, when there's new councils, we have a plan in place, and it's good.
Now, as far, oops, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yeah.
Sean, as far as this goes for like budgeting, okay, the streets should come out of MFT. Is this enough information to do that?
Yes, what I did when I actually broke it down, there's a summary in the specific for the street section. And what I did is,
About 5 pages in. 4
Yeah.
pages in. 1, 2,
might be the very last-
third page.
third page, exactly.
Third page.
Yeah, what I had done, and actually it might be in the, actually, if you look at the first page and summary, you'll look and you'll see that there are outside funds, there's village funds, which are the capital portion of that, and then there's something called outside funds. Over the 5-year program, I was projecting 1.625, which is looking at 325 per year out of MFT.
Okay.
And any additional money you want to spend to make those projects work was taken out of capital. So the vast majority was MFT, a small portion was that. And the idea was to spend down some of those excess funds you have. We have a better handle on where those funds are right now. I'm thinking they're probably somewhere, we're still waiting for IDOT to catch up with it, but they're
Yeah.
probably somewhere in that $750,000 to $800,000 range. So the idea would be to spend some of those down over the 5 years, but not completely deplete them, because something may come up, something that you need. And the idea also, Liz, was I was trying to grab MFT for roads, but also keeping a portion of MFT, you know, your salt and your maintenance items that you're gonna pick up, your aggregate, things like that. A portion of those also would be part of that MFT. So that, we're actually spending more than 325 out of MFT. It's just, we're only taking 325 to be used as road technically.
Okay. Because we're gonna work on that tomorrow.
All right, that's it?
This was about a 6-month process.
Took a lot longer than
That's
that.
about a 5-month process to get to where we're at right now.
All right. Yeah, good job. Anybody else have anything to add to that discussion? Okay, we'll move on to the next. Red carpet corridor entertainment funding. This is Steve and Josh.
I am going to give this to Mr. Josh. He is the event planner for this.
You know what? Put that in writing. Okay, perfect.
So as Braidwood's delegate for the Red Carpet Corridor Planning Committee, want to kind of share an update on where we're at with planning for this year's event. As everyone knows, this year is going to be a big year for Route 66, the 100th year of the Centennial Celebration going on. So they're expecting that this year's festival is going to be a lot more attendance than in the past. The dates are May 2nd and May 3rd. It's always the first Saturday, Sunday in May. As part of this year's festival, the state of Illinois DCEO released a grant on throughout the state for this. Heritage Corridor Destinations is the organization that applied for and received the grant from the state. And they in turn are now taking some of those funds and allocating them for some of the communities that are part of Red Carpet Corridor. There's 13 communities total along this corridor. And of course, every community does something for the festival. What they allow is communities in order to help kind of build up their festival a little bit, more along the lines of activities, entertainment, that kind of thing. They allow the communities to submit proposals for different things they would like to see covered by some of the grant funds. The grant was very large. However, Heritage Corridor Destinations is using a majority of the grant funds for a lot of advertising. They're doing a complete revamp of Red Carpet Corridor and what it means. They're really trying to get people to reassociate Red Carpet Corridor with Route 66. If you're somewhere along the lines over the last several years, it's kind of somehow, I don't know how, but kind of, people don't associate with Route 66. So they're trying to rebrand that to make it even more associated with it. So the funds that they have left from that, they took proposals from all the communities. Now, not every community is able to receive some of these funds because it's not a whole lot left. Luckily, for Braidwood, we were able to receive $2,100 of those portions of funds to help cover some entertainment during the event. So that's what it has to be used for, entertainment, activities, that kind of thing. It can't be used for like infrastructure, signs, or anything like that. So back several years ago, we used to do, kind of live entertainment during the festival. So got a hold of a couple bands, asked for some quotes, being that it's Route 66, 50, 60s theme, that kind of stuff. So I was able to get a couple quotes back for some bands. The first one was the Silhouettes. They're pretty popular, a lot of people know them. Really good sound. They gave a quote for 4-hour performance with $1,500. So that's actually pretty cheap for what they do. So we reached out to another local band. However, there's a little bit of miscommunication about the dates. So come to find out, after we got awarded the funds, they told me that they were already booked for that date, that we needed them to come on that Sunday. So we got a hold of the DJ that we used last year. When I say we, I mean Lions Club paid for a DJ last year to come out to the event. Shy City Entertainment, named DJ George. He does a lot of events in town. He does Summerfest, he does National Night Out, several others. He's really good. So we reached out to him. He's willing to do 5 hours of 50s, 60s music for the $600 that was allocated for that band. So we were able to use that to cover it. And the music helps give the festival a festive atmosphere, instead of being a stale, kind of thing. It really does help. So with the Saturday band, it's going to be something where, people that aren't going from community to community down the route, they can come on out and they can listen to the band, sit in front of the band shell in the grass area up over there and enjoy the music if they want to. So that'll be a good option for them. With these grant funds, so as part of the agreements that the city has to enter into with Heritage Corridor Destinations, it's basically a reimbursement type thing. So the city would pay for the 2 entertainments and then submit for a reimbursement from Heritage Corridor Destinations. The letter that you guys have for approval at the council meeting in a little bit basically says that that's what's going to happen. That the funds are committed for Braidwood, and the funds will be paid to Braidwood once we submit for those reimbursements on there. Just a couple other quick updates for the festival itself as far as Braidwood goes. So we're looking at doing vendors again. We've got 11 that are registered so far, and we know that there's at least another dozen or so that were sending an interest. So the entrance fee or the vendor fee is $20 for a spot, and this year the Lions Club decided they were going to put that towards Shriners Children's Hospital. The last 2 years it's been towards St. Jude Children's Hospital. So try to change it up a little bit, but kind of keep it along the same idea. So Shriners Children's Hospital is a really good organization. On that Saturday, looking at doing the car show over there by the Polka Dot. That's through the Rusty Nuts Car Club. And so one thing that we're hoping to do is, with the formation of the Special Events Committee, we would like to start kind of involving them in this, kind of be like their first official event, help get their feet wet and stuff, help to try to, to get the to get an idea of what has to go on with this. Because eventually, for next year's festival, we would like the special events committee to take this over and kind of head it up. So one thing we're gonna really need them to do, once it gets established, is try to find something for Sunday. An activity, whether it be another car club or motorcycle or something else to add during it. That's always been our latest hurdle, trying to find another thing to go on Sunday. Because Sunday has always been slower in the past. This year though, however, I think we're probably gonna see it stay pretty busy on Sunday, so. We're still figuring out the giveaway items for each community. Hopefully tomorrow we have another committee meeting with all 13 communities. Hopefully we should have an idea of what the designated giveaway for each community is gonna be. And that's kind of a big thing for travelers that are going to all 13 communities. They try to collect all 13 items, and usually their item is specific for the town or branded for the town, so they collect one in each one that they go along. So they're trying to do something a little bit more special again for the centennial. So hopefully we should know more about that tomorrow. Leading up to the event on May 2nd, so on April 30th and May 1st is the national kickoff event for Route 66 Centennial. They're anticipating that they're gonna have, again, larger attendance for this year, then also throughout the year. They're seeing that a lot of people are making plans to travel the full Route 66 this year. If you guys don't realize how many people from out of the country come here and do this full route. They're seeing people at hotels, all that kind of stuff, looking up along this route like they've never seen it before. Just because they're anticipating that that's going to really bring an impact. So, like I said, that's hopefully gonna give a lot of exposure for the town throughout the year. The big hot spot for them to stop is over by Polka Dot. You know, and a lot of people in town think it's a weird thing, but that zoo up there, you see how many out-of-town people stop there and are taking pictures in front of that thing, with it, of it, that kind of thing. You know, we don't think it's kind of funny or whatever, but to these people,
No, I
that's an
know.
attraction. You know, that is an attraction to them. So, like I said, this should be a really good year for Route 66 and for the exposure for the town, with people coming down through that way, so. But that's what I wanted to give you the update for tonight.
Thank you.
I think Josh should have a band to do on Sunday.
All right, you're the lead singer.
Was Silver Strings busy?
I didn't cover that, but I know they're usually more than 6, yeah.
They usually do one.
All right.
Mayor, I have just one question. Was that T-shirt that we looked at, is that part of the giveaway that he's talking
No,
about?
that
It's totally
is,
something
Something we'll do, right? Like,
no, the coalition's gonna
Yeah.
do it. The
Coalition's
coalition,
doing a T-shirt.
yeah.
they're
Okay.
going to, have them printed, and then they'll sell them, and they'll keep the money
Okay.
for themselves.
All right, next up is, Chief, amend fire and burglar alarm system.
Well, I intend to take up more time than Sean and Josh with this.
Over alarms, right?
Very, yeah, yeah.
Push-ups.
Real minor, what you have in front of you, just very slight changes to existing ordinances related to false alarm, burglar, false alarm, fire. So we have both ordinances already in place. I went to look at our procedures internally at the police department on how we implement these or handle the false alarms. We didn't have anything in place. So while setting the procedure up, I wanted to slightly address the ordinance. The ordinance as it stood allowed for one false alarm in a 12-month period, followed by $150 fines. I thought that was a bit excessive. So to bring this sort of in line with some other changes we made to ordinance violation fines, I recommend 2 false alarm warnings in a 12-month period, and then that's followed up with $75 fines for 3 through 7, and not hitting that heavy 150 mark until the 8th or greater. Minor changes, it'll help just bring some procedures consistent on the PD side.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Amend planning and zoning dates. Steve, you're up.
Yeah, there's nothing in your packet. I just wanted to do some information on the next 2 items. We are working with the planning commission and George to see if we can do the second Mondays of the month versus the first Mondays of the month. Maura Wagoni has a previous engagement on the first Mondays of the month, and so if it works out with the planning commission, we're gonna come before you and amend our dates for the planning commission meetings from the first to the second Monday of the month. This is more informational, just to let you know that it'll be forthcoming, hopefully next council meeting. I know we're trying to get a meeting with George and trying to get things figured out.
Okay. All right, you know, you're still up, Route 66
Yeah, again,
benches.
yeah, Route 66. This is again for more information. We received a grant for a park bench. I was telling Dale and Liz and Warren this yesterday and today. So we received a grant for this bench. It looks like a Dodge pickup gate with a seat on it and arms. There's gonna be an artist that's gonna go ahead and do a mural on it. It's all free. It's through the grant program. Matter of fact, the mayor of Lockport is kind of administering this grant through some association with Route 66. And he asked us if we'd want to partake, and we said absolutely. So we are looking to put this park bench at the zoo, and we're looking to do a selfie wall at the zoo too, and have that done by the 1st of May. Not sure on the park bench, but we're hoping the selfie wall will be done by the 1st of May. Again, just informational.
All right, thank you. Hey, that's our discussion, items for our community of the whole. Finish out, we have public comment for community of the whole. Do we have anybody here for public comment for community of the whole? Okay, we'll move on. Do we have anything for executive session? For community of the whole meeting, anything for executive session? No, our next community of the whole meeting will be Tuesday, March 10th at 6:30. And then you have a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion. Second?
Commissioner Weeding,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Michael,
Yes.
Mayor Lyons.
Yes.
We have adjourned.
We'll take 5.